Hi everybody, happy Perthshire Pride. I am Douglas Stuart and I am the author of the novel Shuggie Bain, seen here in all of its shiny gold glory. And I'm sorry I can't be with you guys to celebrate this year, and I'm sorry that the parade scheduled for August 8th won't be going forward, but I hope you have a great Pride and that you are safe and happy and healthy. Shuggie Bain is my debut novel, and it is the story of the Bane family, a working class family struggling to survive in 1980s Glasgow as the city is coming apart round about them. The mother of the family, Agnes Bain, is a proud, beautiful, little bit vain woman, and she's kind of governed by a lot of small wants. She's seen by those around her as being too much, but in fact, it's not that she is too much, it's that the world around her isn't enough. She has married across sectarian lines Big Shuggie Bain, who is a Glaswegian taxi driver, and as Shug sort of philanders his way across the city, philanders is actually a nice word, as he shags his way across the city, Agnes begins to descend into alcoholism. After Shug takes Agnes and their three children and brutally abandons them in a new house in a North Lanarkshire coal mining town that is actually in the process of being closed down by the Thatcher government, Agnes begins to accelerate her self-destruction. It is her three children that do everything to try and save her from herself, but it's her youngest kid, young Shuggie, who stays by her side the longest. Shuggie is doing everything he can to save his mother, but he's also dealing with some secrets of his own. He is a fussy, lonely, precocious little boy, and he is seen by the community around him as too effeminate and just no right. The scene I actually wanted to read for you today, I've actually never read before out loud, so if I stumble, please forgive me. But it comes from the heart of the book, and Shuggie, who is about 8, is going scrapping for copper with his older brother Leek, who is about 18, and they are sort of crossing this petrified sea of slag. Leek has known for a long time that there's something bothering Shuggie and that Shuggie is being ostracised by the community around him for his sexuality, and this is where he sort of turns and starts to get to the bottom of that. With a flick of his loafer, Leek sent a shower of slag backwards and listened to the small coffin whine. Shuggie made a growling sound like an angry badger, and Leek laughed and resolved to make him do it again on the way back home. Leek galloped down the last of the hills and waited for his brother at the bottom. The tide of slag moved like a landslide. Shuggie took large windmilling leaps, and on his second or third step, the slag suddenly solidified. His legs moved too fast, and with a sharp shriek, he pitched forward onto his front and slid the rest of the way on his face. He came to a rasping stop, and the slag rose silently around him, swallowing him like a hungry grave. Leek reached down with one hand and lifted the boy clear of the coal by the strap on his backpack. A small black face with two white eyes blinked up at him in confusion and fear. Leek couldn't help but laugh. "What have I told you? You have to take it lighter on the way down, else you'll set the whole side of the fucking thing moving." "I know, but it starts sliding and I get a fright and then I might get hurt and buried." Shuggie shook the slag from his black hair. "Mammy would burst you if I died." Leek set the boy down. "Do you have to be so annoying? Why can't you just be normal for once?" The boy turned away from his brother. "I am normal." Leek thought he could see the pink rise on the back of Shuggie's neck. His shoulders shuddered with the start of tears, and Leek spun his brother back around. "Don't turn away from me when I'm talking to you." Leek studied his face closely. It hadn't been rising tears. Leek knew the flush of shame and frustration well enough. "Are the kids at school still battering you?" "No." He twisted free from Leek's grip. "Sometimes." "Look, don't let it bother you. They see the one thing that's a bit more special than them, and then they just pile on." Shuggie looked up. "I told Father Barry on them. I asked him to make it stop." He straightened the pleat on his trousers. "But he only made me stay behind after the bell. He made me read about the persecuted saints." Leek tried not to smirk. "Oh, what a useless old bastard. That's just the way of the chapel. Stop complaining, it could be worse." He kicked off his tasseled loafer and, bending over, emptied it of slag dust. "You know, when I was at school, they said there was a father that was diddling this one quiet boy. Can you imagine that?" He lifted his eyes and met Shuggie's gaze. Has he ever touched you, Shuggie? Father Barry, that is. A cloud passed over Shuggie's face, dark enough to make Leek stop ridding himself of coal dust. No, he said quietly. Then the words started tumbling out quicker than he could organise them. But they said I did things to him. They said I did dirty things, but I never. I promise. I don't even know what those things are. I believe you, Shuggity. They're just bamming you up. Leek took his brother in his arms, and in a great crushing hug, he mashed the boy's face into his ribs. Anyhows, how old are you now? Shuggie didn't answer right away. He was happy to be suffocated. Then he spoke in a very considered tone, like he was reciting some fact in front of a dusty blackboard. July 16th, 4:20 in the afternoon. You were a very difficult birth, Leek. A very difficult birth. Oh, fuck's sake. Shuggie buried his face into Leek's side. I just think we should know things like that about one another. Then he added sullenly, 8. I'm nearly 8.5. Sakes, why couldn't you just say that? Anyway, you're big enough. It's time you tried to blend in more. You have to try and be more like those other wee bams. Shuggie turned his head and gasped for air. I am trying, Leek. I try all the time. Those boys let their shirt tails hang out like they have no shame, and all they do is kick that stupid bladder about. I've even seen them put their fingers down the back of their trousers and then smell it. It's so, he searched for the word. It's so common. Leek let him go then. If you want to survive, you need to try harder, Shuggie. How? Well, first, never say common again. We boys shouldn't talk like old women. Leek hawked a wad of phlegm onto the slag. And you should try to watch how you walk. Try not to be so swishy. It only puts a target on your back. Leek made a great pantomime of walking just like Shuggie did. His feet were pointed neatly outwards, his hips dipped and rolled, and his arms swung by his side like there was no solid bone in them at all. Don't cross your legs when you walk. Try and make room for your cock. Leek grabbed at the bulge in the front of his corduroys and strode back and forth in a half strut, half lazy amble. Don't bend your knees so much. Take longer, straighter steps. Leek walked around in easy, natural circles. Shuggie followed his wake like a mimic. He was trying his hardest to hold his arms tight. It was hard to make it look natural. That was a reading from my debut novel, Shuggie Bain. I know that limited signed edition copies will be available at the Waterstones in St John's Centre in Perth. And once again, a very happy Pride, and I hope everyone is safe and well.